Okay, so let me paint a picture for you before I start this review. I think I speak for almost all the movie fans out there in saying that we were really looking forward to some great films this year. I mean, sure, we weren't getting any Avengers Endgames or anything, but films like Mulan, Black Widow, Soul, they all looked like they would be a great time at the movies. And then, as we all know too well, the world fell apart, movie theaters closed, and now we're all stuck at home waiting for the day when we can all safely head back to the theater. In the meantime, though, movie studios have been doing something really interesting actually. They've started releasing films straight to digital. So instead of even waiting for some films to head to theaters, they decided it would be more financially viable for them to just release them directly to our homes. Films like the recent Trolls World Tour did so with some relative amount of success because we just need new content and the studios know that. However, this channel being Access Blockbusters, I realized that movie studios wouldn't really be releasing a lot of their major tentpole movies on digital because it's just easier to release them in theaters and it would make them a lot more money. That's why films like Black Widow aren't going straight to Disney+. However, one Disney film that did go straight to Disney Plus is the film that we're going to talk about right now, which is Artemis Fowl. Full disclosure, I wasn't going to watch this film originally because if it was going to Disney Plus instead of to the theaters, then that was already a bad omen. And then I happened to see the Rotten Tomatoes score. And that really disheartened me, but you know what? When else am I going to have a chance to review a new release Disney film during this crazy time? Because, I mean, it's not like new films are just popping up everywhere. So, this was a chance for me to talk about a new release and review it really soon after it came out. So naturally, I sat down to watch the 90-minute feature film that is Artemis Fowl. And let me tell you, it went straight to Disney Plus for a reason. Let's talk about it. This review will be non-spoiler, however, I do have to mention that I personally haven't read any of the books and have really had no attachment to the characters before seeing this film, so I might accidentally, inadvertently spoil something for hardcore book fans, so just be warned that there might be some slight spoilers ahead, but I'll do my best not to spoil anything major. Let me reiterate, I did not read any of the Artemis Fowl books. I have no previous attachment to this character or any of the mythologies that they set up, or any of that. So I went into this film completely fresh and completely clean, about as fresh as I possibly could have been. However, from what I've heard and read online, it looks like this film didn't do much good in pleasing either fans of the books or casual viewers. And as I watched this film, though I personally wasn't offended by any of the choices director Kenneth Branagh made, I did remember something. A memory that had been hidden deep below the surface, buried and repressed, never to be seen again, until now. And that would be the film that also happens to be on Disney Plus right now, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. So to give some more context, I was a huge fan of the Percy Jackson books, and when the first film came out, I was too young to really care about any of the inconsistencies or the flaws. But then I saw the second film, when I was old enough to criticize the choices that the filmmakers made. And then I thought about the first film again. And I cannot remember being more personally offended by a film than with this franchise. So to all of you Artemis Fowl book fans who are up in arms about how this movie treated you, I completely understand how that feels. All too well. But let's talk about this film without any of the baggage of the books or any preconceived notions of anything. Because, again, like I say all the time, I do my very best to leave my expectations at the door before seeing a movie. Because, to me, the goal is really to like as many movies as possible, because otherwise you're just depriving yourself from the joy that is cinema. Unfortunately, as hard as I tried, I just couldn't bring myself to enjoy this film. You can place that blame on a great many things, I think, like iffy CGI in places and weird moments of slow motion and trippy visuals, but I'm going to point out the three biggest pitfalls of Artemis Fowl in my opinion. Those three things are dialogue, story, and character/acting. So let's dig into the dialogue a little bit. Immediately we're introduced to our main characters, and director Kenneth Branagh, who, by the way, he directed the first Thor film, does a fine job establishing the characters and their motivations. Except, does anyone remember the old adage, show, don't tell, when it comes to writing? Whoever wrote this script decided to only tell and not show because literally everything you need to know about any character is told to you directly. I could not believe the amount of times I heard Artemis is this, or Artemis is that, or look out because Artemis is this and this. The film opts to do this in a very strange, annoying way by having Josh Gad's character Mulch Diggums. And yes, I know this is from the books, this is not the film's fault at all, but Mulch Diggums, who, by the way, looks like a complete ripoff of Hagrid from the original Harry Potter films. Mulch Diggums is set up so that this character can narrate basically the entire film. Anywhere that needs anything explained, Diggums has got it covered. He just tells the audience everything that they need to know, and it's so blatantly lazy that it drives me insane. Not to mention that 40, yes, count it, 40 minutes into the film, he was still interrupting the main story and talking directly to the audience, directly to camera. So, yeah, the dialogue's terrible. But hey, maybe the story is better, so let's get on to the story. Except it's not, it's also terrible. Let me start off this segment with a compliment, though, because I will give credit where credit is due. The film Artemis Fowl is 90 minutes. That's the end of that compliment. So, yeah, the story's terrible. But no, in all seriousness, so the short running time to me can be viewed as both a blessing and a curse, because here's the thing. In a short movie, it's easy to forgive some of the flaws, because at least the movie is short, right? On the other hand, in the case of a film like Artemis Fowl, there were so many loose plot threads that I couldn't help but wonder if the film would have benefited from another 30 minutes. It really felt like a full half hour was left on the cutting room floor, and I wouldn't be surprised with this film's troubled production. Then again, I didn't want to sit through another 30 minutes of this film, so I guess in both ways the film loses, and I guess so do I. The story starts out rather simply enough. There's an item that the characters need to get, and then they try to rescue a character. It's pretty simple. But then the story unravels so much that at a certain point the film looks like it ended, and then it reverted to some sort of twist, and then it actually ends. And at that point, I literally had no idea what was going on. I had no idea why this movie was doing what it was doing, or what in the world was going on, because literally the last few lines of my notes were variations on the phrase, "I have no idea what's going on anymore." I think this is in large part because the film tries to set up so many things for a potential sequel, and it also tries to wrap up so many loose ends that were set up earlier, while also trying to establish characters that we should care about. And that brings me to my third point, because the characters and the characterizations of all of these characters are terrible. So, Ferdia Shaw plays Artemis Fowl, and while I don't blame him at all for this, the character was so wooden that I wondered at a certain point if they told him to act like a robot. Again, I don't think anyone else who hasn't acted before, like Ferdia Shaw, could have done any better, so I don't blame him at all, but it is what it is. Additionally, the rest of the cast, including Josh Gad, who talks the entire time as if he's lost his voice recently, as well as Judi Dench and Colin Farrell, look like they're either extremely bored or trying to somehow salvage the mess that they know they're in. I suppose the most likable character was a fairy named Holly Short, but even she wasn't that interesting after a while. So, is Artemis Fowl all bad? Well, no, not necessarily. I think there are some very good moments of CGI and world building, although maybe a little generic. And these are, of course, overwhelmingly accompanied by terrible moments of CGI where trolls look like they were taken directly out of the Sorcerer's Stone. Yeah, the Sorcerer's Stone that was released 19 years ago. And in the end, the biggest thing that this movie has going for it is that it's mildly entertaining. Because, look, I just reviewed The Incredible Hulk, and to be honest, I'd much rather watch Artemis Fowl again than The Incredible Hulk, even though I think Hulk is a superior film. The reason is because Hulk is boring, while Artemis Fowl is at least mind-numbingly entertaining and confusing to the point where maybe you could rewatch the film 20 times and still not know what the plot is, and maybe you could make a game out of trying to figure that out, I guess. In the end, Artemis Fowl is a pretty terrible film on all fronts. The acting is weak, the characters and dialogue are uninteresting and even awful for a good portion of the film, and the story makes absolutely no sense. I watched this film, so you didn't have to, so please spend 90 minutes doing something else, like watching the portal scene again from Endgame, but please do not watch this movie. I suspect there is something better for you to do. I'll give Artemis Fowl a D and a 3 out of 10. Did any of you see Artemis Fowl? And if so, what did you think about it? Because maybe you liked it. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts. We're still doing our Infinity Saga rewatch, and the next film up is Iron Man 2, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe for more content, and make sure to give this video a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.